Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television for the week of August 8th to August 14th, 2015.
How did this happen? Where did it go? It should have been there last week's episode. I thought I was set up with my season pass. Now the new show is out, and I don't know what happened last week. How did my TiVo forget?
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Brent Barrett.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder.
And Wendy's not with us this week, but she'll return next week. First up, we're going to tell you about our current poll. We've asked you again for the second week in a row, what do you do when you've been watching a show for a while and realize that you no longer enjoy it? And 40% now, it's kind of pulling away of you say you just stop watching, which makes total sense. I mean, it's the same thing to do. But the next one up is at 33% is let the episodes pile up and wait to hear from others. That's pretty much what I do, I think. And then, of course, we have options of keep watching and hope it improves. There's 16% of you optimists out there. And there's 4% of you compulsive, obsessive people who keep watching to complete the series at 11%.
Yeah, interesting that the stop watching has finally pulled ahead. And I love it. You know, I'm just waving to the completists out there who keep watching just to complete the series, because I know that feeling. It takes a lot for me to give up.
Yeah, sanity has finally won the day. All right, we also wanted to let you guys know here that there's been some questions coming our way, so we thought we'd put it in the podcast. Continuum, Season 4, you know we love Continuum around here. We announced last week, I believe, or the week before, that it's airing in Canada 1 week before it's airing in the U.S., which is good because it's very close. But there was concern that we might be covering it on the Canadian schedule, which means we might talk about the episode prior to it airing in the U.S. if you listen to the podcast when it comes out. We want to assure you that we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to the U.S. schedule. Now, I and maybe Kevin might watch it on the Canadian schedule, but we're not going to talk about it until the next week when we're sure all of you guys have also been able to see the episode. Wendy's going to be right there with you, I imagine. She's got too busy a schedule to watch shows out of order.
Yeah, so that, let's see, doing my quick math means the episodes will air late Friday night, and our podcast discussing it will likely be on the Tuesday show. I'm guessing if it's one of our popular choices, or maybe it'll roll to the last call at the end of the week, but you should be good.
Yeah, never fear, no fear, no fear. And also, we wanted to take an opportunity to remind you, if you had been getting email notifications whenever we made blog posts, and we're making blog posts all the time, including ones that aren't related to the show. Kevin puts one up regularly about DVD releases. If you're not getting emails anymore and you used to be, or if you want to get an email whenever we post something on our blog, there is a new email subscription list. We're sorry for those of you who were on the old one. We were trying to improve the feed, and we ended up losing all of your email addresses off the list. It's really my bad. I should have taken a backup beforehand. I just didn't think. But if you go to our blog, our main page, tuninginto.scifitv.com, and you scroll down on the right side, it's below our sponsor area. You'll see a field where you can type in your email address and click a button and subscribe, and you get an email every time we make a blog post, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's, just convenience factor, folks. Most of our blog posts, as you folks know, if you've been with us for a while, are show releases. So if you're subscribed in iTunes or whatever your podcast software is, you're probably fine. But like Brent said, the occasional post about DVD releases and occasionally other special one might show up there. So if you just want to be extra sure that you don't miss any of our goodness, by all means, use that option to stay up to date.
It's a good one. All right. Let's head on over to the spoiler-free water cooler.
Hey folks, I'm John Pavlich from the Sofa Dogs podcast. I've been recording alternative DVD commentaries from a fan's perspective for the past 5 years now. In that time, the show has reached over 100,000 total downloads. I've decided the best way to show my appreciation is to get the fans involved. Don't just listen to the podcast, participate. All you have to do is send me an email. If it's a TV show, just send a list of your favorite episodes you'd like to join me for as my guest. Go to sofadogs@hotmail.com. But you gotta hurry. A lot of these spots are filling up surprisingly fast. Not just fans, but this includes the filmmakers too. I'm sincerely asking. This is your platform. We've done it in the past, and it's been a big success. Not just in promoting the work, but in connecting with the fan base. All are welcome. Even if you don't have the necessary equipment, guess what? I can even record the conversation by phone. sofadogs.libsyn.com, the pop culture show that stays crunchy in milk.
All right, first up on the water cooler, as usual, is our quick reviews. We give the shows that were on last week a rating of watch it now, watch it soon, let it sit on the DVR, you can skip it, and shades thereof that add up to a scale of 1 through 10, believe it or not. So you can think of it that way if you want.
I was going to say, for the numeric folks, there you go.
Yeah, and if you remember our episode polls on our forum, if you ever go there, we still have some of them archived. You can see how they rate out. In fact, I think we even have in our About section on our blog, we talk about our quick reviews, and we give them numerical values. So you can see what the numerical value is, just in case you care. And no, it doesn't translate. I know Kevin's going to love this. It doesn't translate to like letter grades in school. If it's less than a 7, it's not a failure. Well, first up, we have Sunday, the 9th. We have Falling Skies, episode 7 of season 5. Everybody has their reasons. And I think Wendy's right here with me, but this is a let it sit. It's just not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from more than a few folks, very honestly.
Yeah, and then following that, we have a much better series, Humans, episode 7 of season/series 1, whatever you want to call it, wherever you live. Just entitled episode 1.7. I'd give this one a watch it now.
I might say low watch it now, but very strong.
All right. Following that is The Last Ship, episode 9 of season 2, Uneasy Lies the Head. It was still a good episode. I'd only give it a high-end watch it soon, though.
Yep, same thing here. High watch it soon.
Okay, and we also have The Strain, episode 5 of season 2, Quick and Painless. Low-end watch it soon for me.
Not one I watch.
All right, and now the show that I swear they're airing out of order or something. Teen Wolf on Monday, episode 8 of season 5. I don't know what is up with this season, but I just don't understand. I go into every episode saying, what? Did I miss 3 episodes? I don't understand this. It's Ouroboros. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I'd give it a high and let it sit.
Yeah, I think we got like 2 more eps before they take like their mid-season break. And yeah, I'm really hoping it kind of crystallizes because it's just this season isn't working that well for me. I'll be generous and say a very, very low watch it soon.
Yeah, I wish I knew what story they were even telling this season. I know about, well, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I know about the bad guys, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand the plot. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, I'm really hoping those last couple before they take a break will maybe have a real like aha moment, and it'll make a lot more sense because this is unusual. Teen Wolf's usually crisper than this.
Yeah, it used to be. They've lost a couple of cast members. Maybe they helped crystallize it before. We'll find out. All right, moving to Tuesday. We've got a couple of shows that only I am watching, I believe, and that would be Proof, episode 9 of season 1, Tsunami Part 1. I would only give it a let it sit, though.
Yep, not one I watch here.
And also Scream on MTV, following Teen Wolf. Well, second day and the next day, but still, it's in the same network. Episode 7, Season 1, In the Trenches. It had some dramatic scenes, but I'd only give it a high and let it sit.
Yeah, not on my calendar there.
All right, moving to Wednesday the 12th. Another one I think maybe only I'm watching here because Wendy's not here. Extant, Episode 8 of Season 2, Arms and the Humanic. I would, again, continue the trend of this being pretty good right now. I'd say low-end, watch it now.
Oh, glad to hear it. Not one I watch, though.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting right now. All right, Friday the 14th, we have the sci-fi block. Let's start with Dark Matter, episode 10 of season 1, episode 1.10. I would give this one a low-end watch it now.
Oh, awesome. Looking forward to it. A busy weekend, didn't get to it yet.
It's got a real cliffhanger ending, I'll just put it that way.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, and also Defiance, episode 11 of season 3, Of a Demon in My View. I would give it a watch it now.
Maybe just a little lower for me. High watch it soon.
Ooh, okay. All right. And then we also have an episode of a show that I'm sure Kevin will give a very high rating to. Killjoys, episode 9 of season 1. Enemy Climb. And I would give it a watch it now.
Yeah, this has very much become one of my favorite shows, so I very much enjoyed it too. I'd probably go. I'll go low watch it now, so I don't seem like I'm just totally patronizing it.
That's like 2 weeks in a row where I've given it a higher rating than you. What's up, Kevin? I'm a bigger fan of Dutch than you are. No, I'm just kidding.
That remains to be seen.
Yeah, that's probably absolutely not true. I'll put it that way. It's like saying I'm a better fan of Kinsey than you are. All right, and we've got a streaming watch. Well, kind of a rewatch for myself, but and a slow behind watch for Kevin of Sense8, episode 9 of season 1. Death Doesn't Let You Say Goodbye. I'd give this one a watch it soon.
Excellent, glad to hear it. No, these are saved up for me after Labor Day. But a quick note on Sense8. It just hit me out of the blue too. I see that they've got like a 35-minute like behind the scenes making of now up on Netflix for those who are fans and have seen it.
Oh, cool. Very cool. I haven't checked that out. I will.
Yeah, I thought someone else mentioned it that was watching it, so I don't have the direct link, but they mentioned it was available both US and UK.
Very cool. All right, and we announced last week, of course, late breaking news that had been renewed for a second season, so that's good. All right, we're also doing a watch and rewatch of The Almighty Johnsons. This would be Season 3, Episode 9, Mike in the Mirror. I really enjoyed this one, and you can probably tell why if you've seen it. I'd say watch it now.
This season, The Almighty Johnsons hasn't quite been as high for me. I did greatly enjoy this ep, though, so I'll probably just go very high, watch it soon.
Yeah, I think you'll be happy with the ending, though, even though you don't think the episodes are great.
Yeah. Someone else, one of our listeners who has seen it, kind of backed up what you said and said, same thing. You're going to like when you get there. So I'm still enjoying it, just not quite a home run type thing.
Yeah. On rewatch, it's funny because I left this series at the end of Season 3 saying, oh, wow, that was really good. I love how that ended. It was great. So I have this rosy image of memory of Season 3, and then I've been rewatching it with you guys, and I'm like, well, there's some real slow duds in here, aren't there?
Well, and I wouldn't even say duds. They've just been, like you said, a little slower than some other really, sharp stuff back in Season 2, certainly.
Yeah, I think with this episode and the next several is where it really kicked up. I mean, this one really started to kick up. So I think it's going to be on a roller coaster from here, I hope, for you.
Yeah, we got 3 or 4 left, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to some feedback. We did get a voicemail from Jesse Jackson, longtime listener in Dallas, Texas. He always says Dallas, Texas, as if there's more than one famous Dallas in the world, but it's Dallas, Texas. And he's going to talk about the Tuner Minute that Wendy did about TMI.
Another great Tuner Minute, Wendy. I know that I can get unhappy when knowing data or supposedly knowing data starts affecting how I watch the show or how other people watch the show. I do a Castle podcast, and a lot of our listeners believe the rumors that Nathan Fillion and Stana Kanek don't get along. I don't know if that's true. I don't care if it's true. But they look at the show, and any possible sign of showing that they're not getting along, they bring it up. And I think that distracts from the enjoyment of the show, and it distracts from talking about the show. I like when I get why someone wants to tell a story, or a reason why a writer or showrunner is having this character behave in a certain way, but I don't know where the line is. And I think if it helps me to enjoy or appreciate the story more, I want to know it. If it's going to distract me from enjoying the story, then I don't want to hear it. But since you know me, that's not a surprise that I want good news, not bad news.
Hey, thank you, Jesse. And that's very similar to what I've heard so far from a lot of you, and right on the mark for me, too. I mean, I can take some of this behind-the-scenes stuff if it's going to in some way enhance the story or the enjoyment or even the appreciation, the amount of hard work that goes into special effects or even just acting in a scene. But when you start getting to the personal side of it, like you just described, yeah, that's not my thing.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Yeah, I don't know if Kevin gets a chance to listen to all of your Game of Thrones podcasts, but I listen to them as I'm editing them, and I know you're the Rainbow and Unicorn guy, so of course, the good stuff is what you go for. So I totally agree. I don't like hearing the bad stuff either. The bad stuff I just kind of shy away from. But yeah, hearing things that are going to enhance, like this person is doing some stunts, but this person in real life is a professional kickboxer as well as an actor. That kind of stuff's kind of cool because it gives you more of of an insight into some of the good stuff that's happening in a show. That's pretty cool. I totally agree with you. Thanks a lot for the feedback. Blah, 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 blah. Thanks a lot for the feedback. All right, and we've got a few links for you this week. It's kind of light on links, but we have a couple of trailers. First up, I'm going to tell you about a trailer for the new Westworld adaptation. Remember, that was a movie from way back in the 70s, and I've talked before about how I have great memories of going to a drive-in theater and watching that movie with my father when my mother was doing her Tupperware night at our house, and we needed to get out. All the boys needed to get out. But this trailer for the TV show is pretty cool. The movie had an approach where the androidish robots were not really artificially intelligent. They were just programmed, and then they got out of control from the people and started killing people and going crazy and things. This one seems to be different. It seems to be, based on the trailer, that it looks like they're taking the approach that the androids here are sentient and think they are people, and they think they are in the Old West. And that's the impression I'm getting from this trailer, even though we're not seeing too much. There's a scene where I think a human, I presume, it might be another android, I don't know, is questioning one of the female androids about whether or not she questions her existence. So looks like it's going to get some pretty deep places here, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, much like you, same way. I remember loving the film. I mean, it's not perfect, but I saw it back in a time when I was very much first coming to a lot of sci-fi there in the early 70s, so kind of neat. And yeah, that trailer really had me kind of thinking, and I follow where you're going in terms of what it might be. I mean, they're going to take a slightly different tack on it. It's going to be HBO, so, you know, they can be as serious or as deep as they want to be. So I certainly enjoyed the trailer, got even more excited. I realized we still have to wait for 2016. We don't even have any idea when in 2016. So that was the only bummer was, you know, ooh, looking really cool. When do we get it? When do we get it?
Yeah. All right, well, something we do know when we're going to get is Doctor Who, and Kevin's got to look at that trailer.
Yeah, this is a new one. I think the second or third that we've gotten, official ones, at least BBC America. And this is about a minute long. And you're going to see several of the, shall we say, bad guys. A couple of the well-known faces that we've already mentioned in previous news items in character here in the episode, and some pretty serious tone. If there was one general thing I would say, very serious tone. Not a lot of chuckle lines or things like that. You're looking at some, certainly in this trailer, playing up what must be some pretty epic storylines.
Yeah, you know what I enjoyed most about this, and you kind of hit on it, is more Macy Williams.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
More than just one line in 1 second at the end of the trailer like she had before. A little bit more. So I'm very pleased with this trailer. And it's funny, Stephen Moffat, in some other videos that BBC and BBC America are posting on their YouTube sites, talks about this trailer that we just saw and said, you know, that only covers the first 4 or 5 episodes of the season. We got a lot more coming after that. And I'm thinking, if that's just the first 4 or 5 episodes, wow.
Yeah, really, that's the word. Wow, if that's only 4 or 5 eps. Yeah, and this is a great example where, you know, after having seen her for so long now on Game of Thrones, you know, switching to another genre show for this role, it's just going to be so cool to kind of go, wow, you know, what's she going to bring to the role?
Yeah, I'm really excited. She's one of those actors that I talked about last time with the TMI Tuner Minute, where as soon as, you know, I start watching the show and I like her character and I like what she's doing, I start looking her up and figuring out, you know, more information about her. And she's one of those actors I just really wanted to see in other stuff. I haven't been able to see her in anything else. So I'm looking forward to Doctor Who now. Doctor Who's kind of, I wouldn't say campy as much anymore, but it's definitely lighthearted
Lighter,
at times. Yeah, lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to enjoy seeing that aspect of her work, but I'd love to see her in a lot of stuff. All right, and I've got some news about the renewal of The Last Ship. It's a series that we've enjoyed around here. The second season is not quite as popular as the first season. First season averaged about 4.4 million viewers total. And this season's averaging about 2.9, sometimes, you know, 3 area for viewers. In fact, it drew 3 million on its most recent episode. So it's still hanging in there and still doing a lot of views, especially for a basic cable network. That's pretty good. So they renewed it for a third season. And this season, the second season, is going to end on September 6th. The third season will have 13 episodes and will premiere next summer. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I was glad to see that as well. Certainly, you know, one of the shows I'm enjoying this summer. It's certainly a staple for me. Been pretty consistent. And like I said, this one has definitely turned into very interested in the characters. No disrespect to the storylines. But, you know, once I got hooked, boy, you know, I'm looking forward to some of the relationships and you know, these actors really as a set. I'm really digging the actors that are on this show.
Yeah, me too. What I love about this show is I'm really digging a lot of the characters like you are, but I'm digging the story too. I mean, the plot's just, and the pacing, oh my gosh. We talk about tropes and cliches, and while this show does touch on those, it doesn't drag them out like a lot of other shows. It resolves things and keeps moving. I mean, this is a steamroller of a story, and I enjoy it.
And I got to say, to me, that's very much because it's got the nice crisp, you know, 13 episodes. You know, not much time to wander.
Listen up, Hollywood. I think you are listening, Hollywood, because you're doing this a lot more, and I really like it. All right, now, Kevin's got some news about some stuff on SciFi.
Yes, definitely. What we've got is those 2 big stories, not stories, shows, one series, one kind of special event that we've been talking about coming up. That's both Childhood's End, as well as the other big one we've been talking about quite a bit coming in here, which is The Expanse as well. And we were kind of wondering if they're going to team them up or what they were going to do, since these were both such big events. Well, they're kind of teaming them up. And this will be on the Tuner calendar, as always, folks. But Childhood's End. Going to premiere on Monday, December 14th. And then the other episodes will be the Tuesday the 15th and Wednesday the 16th. So this is the one, it's a 6-hour, quote, air quotes, miniseries. Now, we also have The Expanse coming, and this is one that's going to run a little longer. But what they're doing is putting up the premiere episode, the first 2 episodes for it, right after the first 2 nights there of Childhood's End. So where Childhood's End is running from 8 to 10, they'll have The Expanse from 10 to 11 on that Monday and Tuesday. And then it becomes a regular Tuesday show for the rest of its run. So right there in the middle of December, probably most of our regular shows will now have gone into their holiday break. So we've talked about this, I think, on a few podcasts, that this is a good chance for SciFi to get some serious viewership here with these things running at a time when we don't have a lot of other genre shows on.
Yeah, but knowing Childhood's End, myself from having read it, the general story from my memory and my reread that I've been slowly doing, it's not really Christmas fare. So I'm a little, it's this is holiday time in the U.S. It's between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that and from what we've seen of The Expanse doesn't really look like kind of holiday fare either. So it's very interesting, the timing. Kevin, I do think that you should stick to Childhood's End, because then you put the 2 S's in, and then no matter what, you've got at least the S in the right place, right?
It is a tongue twister for me, and I don't, just looking at it gives me palpitations trying to make sure I can say it.
Yeah, I always think, what does it mean? It means the end of childhood, so it's Childhood's End. So it rolls right off the tongue when you think of it that way, what it means,
Yeah, maybe it rolls off the tongue for some of us.
All right, well, I've got a link to what they're calling a first look on Team Arrow's new lair. And there's an image in there and a little bit of text around it. And it looks to me like Team Arrow, which is getting much bigger this year, this in the coming season. Obviously, we've got a lot more people who've joined on. Is going to have its own little bat cave, complete with a car in this image. At least one car you can see in the background. It doesn't look like it's an Arrow car, a vigilante car. It looks more like it's a Oliver Queen car. But there are no specifics on where in the city that they've built this new base, this new lair. But you can imagine it's somewhere that the bad guys hopefully wouldn't know where it is this time, so they can't make surprise visits. But it looks pretty nice. It's pretty big. Got a nice big round table, kind of a Camelot sort of feel to it, as well as it being kind of in I wouldn't say dark because it's well lit, but I mean enclosed stony area, which kind of reminds you of a bat cave, I guess.
It looks very state of the art, very sleek kind of stuff. Oftentimes, we'd have little discussions going on in the current seasons, and everybody's just kind of standing around, pretty, I don't want to say cramped, but certainly pretty close together. And from this image, it looks like you said, they've upgraded space-wise and got a nice big table, assuming that there's going to be conversations they can actually sit down for, maybe, instead of like, oh my goodness, the next bad guy is going to get us, we all have to run out and do something. Like there's actually going to be some planning going on. And I'm probably way overthinking it because it's one image from, Entertainment Weekly. But still looking pretty cool.
Yeah, please don't let them be sitting down all the time to talk about things in urgent situations. I don't want to be reminded of Star Trek The Next Generation, where, the ship's about to be destroyed and Picard calls everybody into the conference room.
Yeah. Yes, very formal for oh my God time.
Yeah, that's a drinking game all in of itself, I think, right there. All right, well, Kevin's got a couple of casting items. We're talking about Arrow.
Yes, we have 2 specific ones for Arrow. So if you want to jump ahead a couple minutes, don't want to know anything. But certainly one of these is just very cool, so I think you do want to know if you're anything like us. And that's the fact that, as many of us know, the show Constantine was canceled by NBC. Many of us, myself included, enjoyed it quite a bit. And the fun part is we're going to get to see the character of Constantine, played by the original actor, Matt Ryan, coming on Arrow at some point this season. So if you want to follow the link in the show notes, you got, a little bit of very general info from the showrunner. As well as a link to Matt Ryan's Twitter feed where he's got a small video talking about that. So the fact that he's coming in is very cool. And yes, the rumor machine is already flying, folks, of could this lead to more episodes on Arrow or even Legends of Tomorrow? I mean, all speculation here, but certainly that would be cool to see. It's definitely a show I thought left too soon, didn't get a chance to really spread its wings. Yeah, bad pun there. Okay, moving on to the other one, a little more traditional casting info of a actress coming into the show. Going to do my best here, folks, not to butcher her name, because as many of you know that listen for a while, it's not my strong suit. We have, I think it's Leisha Roteru, my apologies if she's listening, but she's been cast to come on the show to actually be a previous love interest of, Arrow, Stephen Amell's character here, Oliver Queen. But apparently it's going to be some flashback stuff, so not a lot of detail there. She's worked on many shows in the past, so my apologies. Smallville, Hellcats, Supernatural, among others. So not a lot of detail, but take a look if you want a little more info and certainly a photo to see if you recognize her.
The Constantine gig is really cool. And Kevin, yeah, I mean, that's a name where you can pronounce it 20 different ways. Eliza, Alicia, Elysia, her first name, Rotaru, Rotaru. Unless you've heard it pronounced, it's going to be hard to kind of guess what it is, but good attempt. I had made a comment in our email when this went around, and I think Wendy did too, of come on, let's hope this is a flashback and not a new love interest. I'm tired of the love triangles on Arrow. Please, so stop it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to think that it's going to kind of come in as potentially some flashback stuff, and then, oh, look who just showed up in the city. I mean, I'm not, you folks know I'm a big old City fan, so I don't want to see it that way, but you got to figure it's coming to a certain degree.
No, I don't have to figure that, Kevin.
Didn't say I don't like it, but we've got to be practical and know that it's probably, at least for me, that helps me, knowing it's probably going to go there. I won't get as hyperventilating when it does.
I don't mind if it's a flashback because Oliver seems to have had relationships with 20 or 30 different women so far in the series in flashbacks and before, Olicity stuff. So as long as it's not new, I'm happy.
Okay, you keep believing that.
All right, well, that's pretty much it for a very thin water cooler. We do have a tuner minute. This one was recorded by Kevin. It's called Seen Too Much.
Our latest tuner minute comes to us courtesy of one of our listeners. Miguel posted on our Facebook page asking about the whole idea about cliches. The type of stuff that we see over and over in storylines, and maybe wondering if we're just all watching so many shows and have for so many years that these things really either start to get under our skin or we can see them coming so much that we feel we have to point them out. We're talking about the type of things where you have a bad guy in the story, but he really has a heart of gold. Or there's some tension between some lead characters because someone's keeping a secret from their significant other. Or the lovely one you'll hear many of us mention, that whole idea where a story starts with the whole 24 hours earlier, ... We get that little flashback. So what do you think, maybe? Are we just all so experienced with so many shows that these type things really just get under our skin? Are we being too hard maybe on the approach of writing a TV show? Is this a case where maybe most viewers, even some of you possibly, don't really worry about these things or notice them even as much?
Well, I think we're guilty as charged. We do see a lot of television. We're all television junkies. We wouldn't be doing this podcast if we weren't, when we're specifically more genre television junkies, but I think we all watch other stuff too. I know, Kevin, you at least watch sports. But I know Wendy and I watch some non-genre stuff as well. Yeah, it is definitely a case of you've seen them a lot, and you even talked about this before, Kevin, when we talked about this topic briefly in the past, about how, there's a lot of new viewers out there who haven't seen these things. They haven't seen all the same shows we did. They didn't see the shows in the 70s and, the old 60s and 50s reruns and the 80s and the 90s. They're younger, they're maybe, millennials, maybe they're in their teens and they're starting to see this stuff for the first time. And to them, it's all brand new, even though we look at it and go, oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah. Okay. Cliche, blah. But that said, there is a case to be made for some shows that take it to an extreme. Falling Skies is one. And Wendy and I love to harp on this show because even though this season started out strong, it fell back right into its traps of the cliche storytelling. And it's hard for me to say objectively that it's all, and I don't think it is all, bad writing on the part of the writers. Part of it is that we've seen it all before and we're getting tired of seeing it again. But here's the kicker. A lot of the things that, especially Wendy and I are talking about now in season 4, we've seen before on this show, on Falling Skies. They did it in season 1, they did it in season 3, and they're doing it again. They're repeating their own stories. It's like the greatest hits gets repeated over and over and over again, and their characters don't seem to learn anything, and they just do the same things, same stupid things over and over again. So that happens a lot too. So there's a bit of both. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it does play into it that we see a lot of television and sometimes things, we kind of roll our eyes at things or don't get as entertained or excited by things because we can predict where it's going just because we have so much experience. So I totally buy that premise. It absolutely is a factor, but I don't think it's the only factor, and I don't think we should discount all of our critiques of shows for having sloppier writing just because that kind of thing might have happened before and we saw it before, so therefore it's excusable. I don't think that counts either. So it's somewhere in between.
And it is an excellent point, and it's a lot of fun when the listeners kind of package it for us to ask about that idea. As you mentioned, I don't watch much TV aside from sports that isn't in the genre. There is one show I've been watching the last couple seasons, and I'll bring it up just for the sake of some parallel here. Halt and Catch Fire on AMC, a show about computers, if you will, a period piece set back in the 80s, which was a time when I was a computer programmer. Therefore, I had some real interest there. My point bringing it up is when I watch that show, I find myself, even though it's doing some of the very same things we just touched on here and have many times from a story point of view and some character point of views, I'm more forgiving of it there. Maybe because I don't feel, I'm not sure if the word is attached or as engaged as I might be in our genre shows. Maybe it's because, like you said, certainly here on the podcast, and many of you folks, let's face it, if you're listening, you're a fan of many shows, so you're already watching a ton. I have some, certain standards or excitement or interest in seeing something new or something just approached a little differently or something. Now, certain shows I just very much get a blinders on because I start to love them very much. You folks, if you've listened, certainly things like Lost Girl and even Killjoys to a certain degree. I fall in love with a certain show, and I don't tend to see some of its flaws as much. So I guess maybe for me, sometimes it's that emotional ride on what I'm looking and seeing, and some of those other ones, I'm hoping they might surprise me, and I want to be very proud of it for doing that. And other times when it's just entertainment, kind of like that Halt and Catch Fire show, it's an entertainment. It's got a little hook to me, and I'm just entertained for 42, and I'm not, in Kevin's way, overthinking, oh, that plot line, I know exactly where it's going. Or that character, I know what they're going to do next. So I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the genre and I feel a real ownership of it that I sometimes overthink that.
And I think a lot of it has to do with other aspects of the show, too. I was just thinking as you were talking about, I sit back and I really enjoy a lot of shows, too, even if they're filled with storylines that I've seen before. And I think the reason I enjoy those and don't nitpick them is because they have other things going for them. They have good characters that I care about, great dialogue, maybe good special effects, too, thrown in. And so I get sucked into those and entertained by them, and I don't think about the other stuff. I think when I really get nitpicky about shows that are doing things over and over again, or I'm, can predict where it's going, is when there's nothing else. It's just a story. And when I'm looking at the story and I'm thinking about the story, because that's all that's on the screen that I'm really, at all interested in, and I see where it's going, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, and I can certainly understand. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about these shows as much as we do if we didn't love them that way. And it's, that's the fandom side of it, let's face it. So it's tough. I've tried certainly to get my daughters into some shows, certainly genre ones, even though they might watch other stuff. And in my case, they're in their 20s. They don't watch a lot of TV. Not a lot of folks their age don't. But, trying to talk about some story elements and some other things, even for the shows they do watch, I can tell they just don't go that deep on it. So it's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, Dad. No, I didn't go there. Like, okay. Again, I guess we're just really special in the way we do some of these things.
Really special. We're special, Kevin.
That came out different than I intended. I think you know where I was going, okay?
Well, I didn't mean anything by that, Kevin. What are you talking about? I just said we're really special. I agreed with you. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for the shortened water cooler. We're probably going to have a shortened back porch, but we're probably going to be able to talk about a couple of extra shows. Maybe. We'll see. And something tells me we won't have a last call this week, but we'll know at the end of the show if we do or don't. So we'll talk about it then. Let's head on over to the spoiler-filled back porch. Today we talk about Humans, Killjoys, the Almighty Johnsons, and Defiance. All right. First up on the back porch, we're going to talk about last week's episode of Humans. This would be episode 7 of season 1. And this is a really exciting episode because in the previous episode, of course, we had the awakening of Mia from Anita and Laura and her family kind of accepting her and her being reunited with Leo and Max. And then Leo and Max head off and they get ambushed and Max jumps off the bridge and all that sort of thing. This episode, we get Leo, Fred coming back. He escaped, of course, at the end of last episode, I believe. And he hooks back up with Leo, and they go looking for Max because Fred thinks that he could find Max based on tidal patterns and river flows and all of that thing. And sure enough, They find Max, but he's essentially bled out. They have this conductive fluid that is used to keep their circuitry going, and he's basically lost almost all, if not all of it, and he's been without it for a while. So they do some emergency transfusion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mia offers up some of hers, and they put it into Max, and they get his power levels back up just enough to get him back online, but he seems to be damaged, unfortunately. Almost like brain damage, essentially, in a living creature, a human, for instance. So he's on the table, and they're all kind of figuring out what they're going to do, and they finally decide they're going to leave. So, but before that, I'm jumping ahead. We had Karen. She's the one who we discovered this week, I believe, that she was created by Leo's father as a replacement for Leo's mother, because Leo's mother had passed. And she looks just like Leo's mother. And before Leo could see Karen, who is, by the way, the police woman who was pretending to be a human and is actually a synth, before Leo, the young Leo, younger meaning earlier in time, could see Karen, the others, Fred and Mia and Niska, all got a look at her, and they all said, no, this is wrong. You can't do this. So basically, I don't know if she just ran away. It seems to be the implication here, because at some point, I think there was a bit of a suicide happening by the father, Leo's father, I think, sadly. But he died, and Karen went off and joined the police force, apparently. And but then hooks back up. She meets up with Niska. In this episode, she finds Niska living with George Milliken for a while, and she confronts, and they have a discussion and then an argument and a fight, and Karen ends up shooting George Milliken, and he's lying on the floor. She and Niska flee in different directions, and Milliken ends up dying on the floor, and Odie, who's also near death himself, finds him just as he's dying, and it's kind of touching and kind of sad that the last thing that Odie says to George, as he's talking to George, is, "You're dead, George." And I laugh only because it is kind of darkly funny. But that seemed to be the end of both of them, which was sad. But Niska manages to find her way back to Leo, Fred, Mia, and Max, and they decide that they're going to head off. And even though Laura and her family are offering protection and a place to call home, they're going to head off. But before Leo can leave, Karen arrives, and it just throws him for a loop. He stumbles. He almost falls at one point because she looks just like his mother, and he did not have any idea that Karen existed. And there's she's trying to take Leo with her to leave. And there's a kind of a sense of urgency, and you wonder why. And sure enough, in barge the cops, I wouldn't say the cops, the security force, I guess, of the guy who's hunting down the super synths, and they start arresting everybody, taking them into custody, and that's kind of where the episode ends. And very dramatic ending, and of course, a really sad scene where Max is still on the table. And one of the guys comes up and points a gun at Max, and he just turns his head and smiles, innocently like he does. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens with all of these super synths, and if they can ever get together enough to unravel that code that's buried within them, so that they can. It seems like the secret is they're going to be able to activate all the other synths and make every other synth out there just like them, sentient, just like them. And of course, what would that do to the world? So that's going to be interesting if they could ever manage to pull that off.
Yeah, they've really done a great job ramping up the story, getting me much more engaged. As I've said, I think the last couple of times talking about this show, so interested in these characters, the super synths, as you're calling them, and I totally get the, their excitement for the idea of being able to unlock that code that thing that they believe their father, their creator, set up to turn all of the synths into these super synths. And I understand human beings at this time being very concerned of what that could do to them if every synth was self-aware. So it's a very interesting comparison of who's doing what, along with our family who's trying to help them And they have their own issues, which create some distrust naturally after what the father did and when they find that out. So, yeah, to find out that the policewoman one was actually created in the image of his mother and all that happened there. Wow, that's really, it's some fascinating stuff to watch play out. And the actors doing the synths are just doing such a great job of being able to appear to be robotic almost in a certain way, without being that way and still being human enough to give honest answers, and what happened with the ultimate sacrifice that Max made and that they couldn't bring him back despite their efforts, that he's been totally, shall we say, wiped or reset. So, and then to throw everybody in that turmoil of the security force coming in to take them hostage or arrest them, whatever you want to call it, certainly makes this last episode coming up look awful interesting, and very glad to know that we've got a renewal for another season. I don't think we're going to wrap things up with a pretty bow, so well done.
Yeah, and before anybody writes in to correct me, it wasn't a case of Laura and her family offering a home and then deciding they want to leave. Remember, I think the news program came on where they reported that and showed the picture of Niska as being a killer of humans. And at the time, Niska was playing with the little girl. And that's what really set it off of yeah, you need to leave now. So that's where they started to leave. And, of course, everything went to heck at that point. So, yeah, I'm going to be very curious if, obviously, they've been captured. Can they escape? While they're in custody, can they somehow connect and do this thing? And maybe there's other synths working in this place that they can make sentient that'll help them escape. I mean, what's going to happen? It's just, I love a show like this where I'm just constantly guessing, and I don't know what's happening next, and I just cannot wait to see the next episode and see what happens. So good on you, show.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. We also want to talk about Killjoys, and Kevin's going to kick that off.
Yeah, we're talking about episode number 9, next to last one of this first season, Enemy Klein. And again, longtime listeners know I'm very much digging this show, but it's really been very strong the last couple of episodes too. And it's very good to see we've still got the problem between Dutch and Davin. Kind of touching to see that Davin is stuck since he has no ship. He had to leave, just taking kind of the crappy warrants, lower level stuff, since he's stuck there on Westerly, wherever he is. So you're not doing that great. He's trying to play it up that it's okay, but he's not really. So having Dutch come to see him to ask how he's doing, kind of nice. Obviously, you still have the connection there. So that was nice to set that up early in the episode. But the bigger picture is the fact that she is going after Klein. She very much decided that everything that he's done to her, she needs to kill him. No doubt about it. And they're able to use some of that cool tech. Johnny came across that hacker type, computer type, who was able to resurrect it. So they're able to use it long enough for Dutch to go in and get some visions of what Klein's up to. And actually, they see that he's actually appears to be working at the rack. And not just at the rack, but the very high levels of the building, which align to meaning the higher levels of who's doing what, control and leadership. So they have to actually go after that. So it's nice to see that, Davin kind of gets back in a little bit because they realize he's good at military ops and the idea of planning out something, a crazy chance to try to pull this off with just the three of them, but they do have a way to kind of do it. Come on, it's any of our shows. The hero's got to find a way to do that. So, we see them going in and we know it's all going to come to what's going to happen when Dutch and Klein kind of face off. So, it was a good story. It was a good idea how to do it, but it was all, okay, what's going to happen? What are we going to learn? We need to know a lot more. Now we know, or certainly I did going in, this isn't the season finale, so I didn't expect full answers. But you get a little bit of a basic confrontation between Klein and Dutch, and he gets the upper hand. Not a surprise based on what's been happening all along. And he's also making like it's no big deal. And she's trying to get answers out of him and everything else. And the only way she's able to do it, which I thought was a nice little twist, is to threaten to kill herself, because he's always been talking about how, special she is and how she needs to be better at what she does and so forth. So the fact that she's got what appears to be, to his eyes and to his nose, his sense of smell, detecting something in the syringe she's got, that it seems like something would be very deadly, and she's threatening to do it to herself unless he talks a bit. So I liked her approach on that, and she does actually stab herself, but she did a good job of just tricking him to try to pull info out. So I really like that little twist idea to it. But him admitting to her that he is level 6, this whole Killjoy level that everybody thought was a myth, and he said, no, I actually am. So that's the big thing that makes everybody, or at least for me, raise an eyebrow in terms of what's going on. They have a little bit of info. They need to make a quick exit to get out of there. But she still wants to get more info out of Klein. So even though Dutch and Johnny are able to finagle a way back onto the ship, she's got a program to let them take off while she stays behind to see if she can get more info. But that does not go well at all, as their supervisor, who's been claiming to be on their side, actually comes after Dutch a bit, but Klein shows up and literally runs him through with a big sword type thing. Dutch is not in good shape, but he's able to get her in like an escape pod or a little spaceship or something. I'm not even sure what it was. Basically to let her get away, and he's got a program so that she can rendezvous with the boys. But he's telling her, hey, no, I want you to, heal up. I want you to be okay, and I want you to be back with them to be able to work on what's coming. So even he's alluding to something bigger, I think, than himself. So I really enjoyed that. I think they threw just a little bit of info at us with a little surprise to really wonder what's going to happen in this last episode.
Yeah, you get more of the insight here that Klein seems to have almost orchestrated the three of them being together in a way. And he does make that comment about, I need the three of you together, you need your team together for what's to come. So yeah, it is a big question mark, what's to come. The whole time, we talked about this briefly before the show, and you didn't mention it there, but the whole time, at one point, Klein indicates to Dutch that her father sent him, or something of that nature. He had spoken to her father or something, because she asked him when she's being put into the pod. You said, my father sent you. Tell me about him or whatever. And the look on his face and the way he's been reacting to the things that have happened to her and the way he's been acting to her, especially as you mentioned, the time when she threatened to kill herself. I'm getting the impression he is her father. And I don't know if he is, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is. So I'm kind of making a Brent's crazy theory now, that he is her father, and we'll see what happens there. But I love the scene, Kevin, after she sent the ship off and she's there and the supervisor is confronting her. I love, talk about anti-cliches. We talked about cliches, in the Tuner Minute and so forth. We've talked about it before. But when she starts the line, you and I both know that you, and then he shoots her. And she just falls and screams. I did not expect that. And I don't think she did either. But then I definitely didn't expect Klein to come and just basically take a short sword or, a fancy machete right through the chest of the supervisor. Pretty impressive stuff. And all along, the supervisor talking about, wanting to get to the bottom of Dutch. What is it with Dutch? Whenever she's in trouble, the trouble goes away. Somebody's watching out for her. What's going on here? I want to know more. Well, what more is Klein? And if he is, I don't know that he is a level 6. He might even be something completely separate that's above and beyond everything. But he just says level 6 to imply to her that he is, at that upper level, because that's the mythical, legendary level of these guys, of the Killjoys and of the reclamation agents. So it's just impressive that she has this kind of connection. Now the reason I say I think he is the father is because that would explain so many things. It would explain, sure, he had a dalliance with some member of a harem or some woman, and she became an illegitimate child of his. And so she was placed somewhere, or she was taken somewhere and put into this, as she called it, a harem. And then it would make sense that he, with his strings, would be able to go in there and kind of tutor her and mentor her and watch out for her and, and mold her and without, revealing that to her or to anybody else that he was her father. So I'm liking that theory, Kevin. I want it to go that route. I kind of do.
Well, like you said, it would tie up a lot of things really well. So it makes some sense. But now I'm beginning to wonder if they've done a better job and, like you said a little earlier, willing to spin things, on its head a bit. So we'll have to wait to see. But it's good that we've got that much thought, or at least for me, that much thought going into the final episode. Again, a show I'm very much enjoying, but it could just be the action show of the week and kind of have some fun. But now it's really, from a plot point of view, got me wondering, like you said, is there a true level 6? Is that just the myth because he created it, so it's something that they can identify with, and that's some bigger thing in the quad that's going on that he's been grooming Dutch to help with all along? All throughout the season so far, we've had this whole thing about the families and who gets what and the privilege and so forth. it's been woven there and kind of left in the background. I'm wondering if that's going to come slamming to the front here about some war that's on the precipice of happening if they can't find a way to do some covert operation that Dutch is needed for.
Yeah, that whole what's coming thing, big question mark. And I it's another one of those shows. I talked about it with Humans and wanting to see what came next. And all of a sudden with Killjoys, I'm in the same place. It's like, oh my goodness, what is this thing that's coming next? What is his relationship to her? What is his position in this organization? What's going on? Love it. All right, I wanted to briefly talk about the Almighty Johnsons. We're on this watch rewatch. This would be episode 9 of season 3, Mike in the Mirror. There's a few things in here I thought were really good. First of all, I am big Ty and Dawn shipper, and this episode just melted my heart. It was a great episode. It was just fist pumping. Yeah. I mean, in the last 2 episodes, we got the scene, where they confronted Loki because Hod is back, and they used, unfortunately, they used the Bragi powers to get Dawn to do something to help them set up Loki, but they didn't abuse her. And then they basically, Hod froze Loki's arm and put out the fires that he had started. And Dawn witnessed all of this, and it really made her memories come back. I mean, sharp, because Hod was full force inside Ty at that point. So she had a flood of memories of her relationship. And later on, she confronts him. She actually says, "Were we lovers?" And I don't just mean, lovers. I mean, to the end of time sort of thing. And at first he was in such shock, disbelief, not wanting to hurt her again or whatever. He just kind of stood there and she started to walk away, but he actually had to admit yes, and then it just all happened from there. I mean, he told the truth. He wasn't, even though he was very emotional, his Hod powers weren't out of control anymore. He wasn't freezing her. He told her everything, and I love when she goes and confronts her boss, Anders, and slaps him before the news is out that she knows what's going on, and don't use that Bragi crap with me, sort of thing, and everybody's just stunned at first, and then Anders tries it on her, and I love her line when she looks at Ty and says, or looks at him and says, "Are you trying that thing with me? Is he trying that thing?" It's great, and of course Mike, though, being very uptight, just screams at everybody, and Ty is right for saying, thank you for turning the best day of my life into crap, for screaming and yelling at me and Dawn and everybody. But tying into Mike, we get this whole idea of the title, which is that now our Odin character, his Axel, is injured. He's got the eye shut, just like Odin was missing an eye, had an eye patch, and could see clearer when his eye was gone. He sees in the mirror, he sees Mike. He sees himself, but it's Mike, and Mike's talking back to him, and he comes to realize that Mike can be him, and maybe Mike can be Odin or something. And it's a very interesting revelation here. We're not quite sure what's going to happen, but again, I got to say it, the Ty-Dawn stuff, awesome. I just love that. I love also the Mike confronting Loki and tricking Loki into playing a game with him, and getting him to just, as everybody says, I bet you don't, or I bet you will, or I bet you, or whatever, like a lot of people say, and they don't mean it. He says it, and Mike picks up on it and says, "I accept your offer." And at that point, he's protected himself and his family from any harm by Loki, because Loki's powers just won't work on them anymore, because the bet was, that Mike could destroy Loki's life, and Loki couldn't do the same thing to them. So Mike's going to win because he wins every game. So I thought that was pretty cool. But something tells me there's going to be a loophole. If I'm not mistaken, the human who is Loki is a lawyer, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he's probably really good at finding loopholes. There's probably some loophole here that we're going to have to watch out for, Kevin.
Oh, yeah. I mean, coming this close to the end now, 3 or 4 episodes, we're going to have some nice curveball or two coming. And we touched on it real briefly in our quick reviews that, season 3, while it's been enjoyable, has been a little meandering, but you could definitely tell in this ep that, okay, we're going to ratchet up story here, and we're going to really start getting some thought going into things. Because, yeah, seeing him trying to figure out why he's seeing Mike in the mirror, what does that mean? Getting paranoid that it means he's going to somehow be one-upped by Mike. And as you said, Mike just being Mike, the fact that Ty tells her that he's God and all that, and, we're getting too much info out to the rest of the world, it's going to create that tension. And Axel just overthinking all these things, taking the info from his best bud roommate there and trying to turn it into something. Paranoia is running rampant, so we're going to have to see what that means. And I totally get it. Was very sweet and very enjoyable to watch the Ty and Dawn stuff. Certainly. We'll have to see where it goes. And also, too, we've got this whole thing with Michelle going on with her using her magic stick, so to speak, and Andrew's trying to tell her that she can, make millions at it while she's just making a little money here and there trying to empower women. So I'm wondering where that's going to play into some things and some tension. And what's going on, because Mike's also been using his skill to make some money without telling her. So the two of them might have a real Donnybrook coming. We'll have to wait to see.
And keep in mind, Mike, by taking the bet, protected him and his family, but not people related to their family, like maybe Mike's own lover. Who knows?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. Well, I think we're going to also try to cover Defiance here, and Kevin's going to talk about that.
Yes, episode 11 of A Demon in My View. A very interesting episode. Certainly, Defiance has been very strong this season. Took a little bit of a kickback, I thought, for me, from as far as the speed there for a couple episodes. But boy, it's happening again. And they throw us right into it in this one, too, with the whole idea of what happened to the convoy that had Nolan and Arissa. As we see Arissa just being the only one that looks to be alive, and the whole carnage of what happened to them. And pretty nice, and I will say nice, to see Berlin just show up. Out of nowhere, she's decided to come back, and she's the one who was actually there and is able to free Arissa, who was totally covered by metal or something and wasn't going to be able to do anything. But Nolan is long gone. We don't know at first why. We come to find out that it was the Omak Kenzie. She actually is the one who took him. So nice to see Arissa and Berlin have a little discussion and jabs at each other in different directions. I like that as they head back to Defiance to figure out what's going on. The whole thing with Nolan was pretty weird. Kenzie basically taking him to be her favorite pet. and actually, hey, the two of them appear to have sex at one point. She's going to, while he'll be the slave, she likes him, she's attracted to him. Going to see what's going there. I mean, once Nolan kind of gets a little idea of what's going on, because she's able to take that Arctech out of his head. Even Arissa notices physically that they're no longer connected there. Nolan's got an idea, and he tries to pull a fast one, but that's not going to go over well. So she gets the upper hand. So that's not going to be good for our heroes, as they say. But sticking on that storyline, kind of bouncing around a little bit, eventually when the father comes back and realizes this, that's not going to go over well. So the bigger part of that story really is the two of them having the real showdown, the dad and the daughter, about, why they are here on Earth, who's, ultimate power, these people are food, and so forth. But, the dad is able to get the upper hand and has her, and she says, no, I'll follow whatever you say, and, all that. And I'm thinking, I don't know about this. And sure enough, as soon as he lets up just a little bit on her, she, stabs him right in the neck. I assume, just like the rest of us, key vein there, and he's going to bleed out, die. So I wasn't sure I saw that coming. That can't be good, because, all the other stuff that's still going on in town, too, at the same time is going to tie into that, because we have Berlin, when she comes back to town, going to see Amanda. That was some nice exchanges, making like, what the hell are you doing here? And not really caring about each other until they start talking it out a little bit. And Amanda's smart enough to realize when she gets the detail on that whole convoy thing that, hey, if they think Nolan got out of there alive, the VC is just going to go all gangs blazing for him and take out Defiance to find him. So they have to go back and actually try to create the illusion that he was killed in all this. But I really enjoyed their exchanges between them, both of them basically making like real hard line, but then very much admitting to each other, yeah, I did miss you. That's some of the stuff in Defiance. I very much appreciate those characters and the way they do that. The other really interesting thing here, too, is Daytak going to see Doc Yule as he's trying to deal with this whole idea of what's been happening and is concerned about the OMAC coming up to Stama. And, Doc Yule pulling a little fast one on him about some disease going around or something, and him naturally, and I need the cure, I need that, and so does my whole family. And when she gives it to him, it's not a cure. It just totally knocks him out. And she ends up, because she's got that thing in her head from Kenzie, basically just getting him stuck to go up on the pods up to the ship to be food. Because by the end, Kenzie is obviously back on the ship and getting ready to release the entire contents there, and that's not going to look good end up good for humanity at all. So that and some of the other stuff with Stama made for a pretty good episode.
Yeah, and I congratulate the writers for figuring out a good reason to have Berlin come back, too. That she didn't just show up out of nowhere. She had heard of what Nolan did because it spread like wildfire, that news, and she realized, well, if Nolan and Arissa are out of defiance, they're going to need a lawkeeper, and they're going to need somebody in there. So she was reluctant to leave to begin with. She kind of didn't really want to leave, but she left because the love of her life, But when she hears this, she's like, okay, I got to go back and see if they need help. And it just made sense that she would find the convoy on the road and all of this would work. So I didn't think it came out of the blue at all. I thought it worked really well. Arissa, I kind of felt for her when the tech was pulled out and she thought that Nolan might have died because she no longer had communication with him. But she's not the kind to give up and sit there and just collapse into a pool of tears. So she goes searching and does eventually find him. So especially when she just questions the daughter Kinsey and both she and Berlin just do not trust her, and it makes total sense. Nobody would. The confrontation with the father, when he first got the upper hand on her, I thought to myself, oh, they're actually going to kill her. Okay, I think that they should do that. That would be dramatic. But then when he starts saying, no, you're going to go back in the pod, you're not going to question me ever again. I'm like, I went through this roller coaster. My next reaction was rolling my eyes and saying, oh, God, here we go again. She's just going to break out again somehow, and she's just going to stick around forever. And then she turns around and stabs him, and pretty clearly he dies. I'm pretty sure. We see the body. We see him stop moving, I think. We see her saying he's dead. And that came as a total surprise. I didn't think that would happen.
Not to mention eating his heart.
Oh, yeah. Eating his heart. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I'm assuming it's a heart.
He's dead. Yeah. Up until that point, when she first got the knife ready to go and before she started cutting into him, I was thinking, he's going to wake up. He's going to wake up. He's going to wake up.
Yeah,
and then
magical thing.
Then she cuts him wide open. And I'm like, nah, I don't think he's going to wake up anymore. And then she pulls out his heart. Like, nope, he's not waking up. So yeah, he's gone. And her going up and starting to talk to and release the rest of her family, as she puts it. And basically preparing for going down and having a big old buffet on the earth. And then, like you said, Doc Yule basically lining them up in cages already. And I love her line when Daytak says, do you have enough for Stama and for Alak and the baby? And she said, oh, I have enough for everybody. So she sent her orders to basically put everybody in cages for easy eating.
Yeah. Get the food.
You get the food ready. Start the barbecue. I think they prefer it raw, but still. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here. But I love Arissa being able to find Nolan, being able to save her father at the end there before Kinsey could have her meal of him. And yeah, how creepy was her lines to him about, you'll live a full life and in the end you'll have a dignified, basically you'll live a pampered life. And then when you're, when you no longer serve me, I'll eat you.
Yeah,
but I'll eat you in a nice way.
But
I'll knock you out
hungry.
first. Yeah, I'll knock you out. You won't be awake when I eat you, but I'll still eat you. She didn't say it, but that's kind of what she implied. It was very creepy. I did not expect the Olmec father to go that quickly. I thought she would go, and then when they dragged that out, I got a little upset. But very interesting development. There's going to be some bad times coming to Defiance, so I can understand in a sense now when they talk about the show goes to outer space for the next season. I'm almost still wondering, do they all take over the Olmec ship or something? Do the Olmec take over the Earth and the survivors get back up to the Olmec ship and then they're in space? What's going to happen? I want to know.
Yeah, okay. They're going to be setting it up with just a couple episodes left too, and we really didn't even touch much too on the whole Stama and her handmaiden info as we see the handmaiden's really working her angles and info and telling Stama about what she knows about Alak and getting her to see the baby and talking about how you can move up in society. So it's almost like a little mini-me for her.
Yeah, yes, she has been spending too much time with Stama. She's really learning from the best, as it were. I think that about wraps us up. Folks, we're probably not going to have, we're definitely not going to have, because we're not going to record it now at last call, so don't look forward to that at the end of the week. We just don't have enough information to talk about this week. It's pretty light. Not too much desire to talk about too many of the other shows. So what we'll do is we'll just save it for next week and hopefully catch up with Wendy when she's back. And I appreciate all of you folks listening every week. I'll catch you next time.
Catch you all soon. Have a great week.
We offer several ways for you to get in touch with us.
you come to our website at tuningintoscifitv.com, you can leave a comment on any of our blog posts. There's also a link there over to our discussion forums. You can send us email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com. You can leave us voicemail by dialing 206-202-4182, or also on Skype at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi, or visit our Facebook fan page by following the link on our website.
Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV was hosted by Kevin Batchelder, Wendy Hembrock, and Brent Barrett. The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle. Used with permission. Listen to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV on Stitcher Radio on Demand. Download the free app today at Stitcher.com. You've been listening to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 348, recorded August 15th, 2015.